And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this special exhibition match of the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. I am JTH Jeremy Hastings. As Mark Ellis once said, the Lamar Jackson of Patreons. Boy, has that statement aged like milk. Yeah, absolutely. But without further ado, let's stop talking about expired food products and let's get into the matter at hand. And that is this wonderful event that is taking place on behalf of charity. And as a matter of fact, I think the person way over yonder in ye yonder general direction probably has a thing or two that he would like to promote about this wonderful event. So, Champ, take it away.
Yes, we are doing this for Trivia for Thon 2. Hashtag trivia, the number 4, THON, the number 2. Click the link in the description below of this video and donate to the Four Diamonds Pediatric Cancer Research Fund as part of my and Penn State New Kensington's joint fundraising efforts. The Four Diamonds Fund is a great organization. It help all the proceeds that are donated to it go to finding a cure for pediatric cancer, but also for covering the costs of the families who have patients enrolled in Penn State Hershey Children's Hospital. This is the undercard match for night number 4 of an 8-night event. So we're having a good time tonight. It's a champ versus champ non-title exhibition here in the Chokeslam, and we have another champ here to help judge us.
Are you talking to me? Oh, hey. What's up, everybody? Smasher. Oh. First of all, right above me, JTH, we got to get you a new webcam, buddy. Your webcam is still from 1995. It's like AOL's webcam.
2011. Get it right.
Look, I'm going to start a fundraiser of my own and get your ass a new webcam. With facts. And how dare I be on the undercard of anything? I am the Innergeekdom champion. I'm going to talk to Kaiser, and Kaiser's going to have some words with some of you fellas. But good luck today. I'm excited.
I offered him a sandwich, and he said it was okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, you offer him a sandwich, that gets away with it. So I got nothing then. Well, glad to be here. I'm excited to help out here, and it's a great cause. That's the number one reason I joined. Like I jumped on this. I donated last year, and I urge everybody to donate this year. It's a fantastic cause, and it's why the community is so great.
Love you, Smasher.
Well said, and I have a little feeling of Groundhog Day because somehow yesterday we recorded a match from day 7, and now I'm recording something from day 4. So I don't know how the hell that works. But basically, for anybody. Yeah,
time travel.
Basically, for anybody out there that's new for this, which probably might be quite a few people, here's how it's basically going to work. We have 4 main round questions that will be asked in this particular matchup, all particularly pertaining to the world of professional wrestling that we all know and love. Basically, it's going to be the first to 3 points. It's as simple as that. If by chance we don't get to all 4 of the main round questions of a 3-0 knockout, which hopefully that doesn't happen because this is a great match. We're hoping for a great match between these two guys. If by chance also that there is also a 2-2 tie after these 4 main round questions, we will have 1 speed round question to determine the winner. Basically, how it's going to go, the question has been asked. Both of our players have selected their choices for what they feel the correct answer is. Leading up to it, we will have a 90-second lead-in, then a 5-minute debate period where both of our players will talk about and discuss and debate why they think their choice is the right answer, and then we will have a 60-second closing. Also, at any point, both of our players have the option for a 1-minute extension at any point during either their opening or closing statements, but they only get 1, and once they use it, they will not get another. So without further ado, I'm guessing both of our players know the rules. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Oh, and I guess when everything is done, the 2 judges at hand and myself will determine the winner. I guess that's important to say as well. It's like I haven't posted before, but yeah. So yeah, now that I'm done insulting myself again, which is something I seem to do quite a lot around here, we're going to get into the first question, which is in the category of feuds. Obviously, just like in Schmoedown, wrestling is always, fascinated by the element of feuds. What are the greatest feuds of all time? But sometimes I've always felt that sometimes the feuds that don't get mentioned as much are just as great as some of the all-timers. So we wanted to ask both of our players, what is the most underrated feud in the 2000s decade? So just for reference, we gave no strict standards. Pretty much any promotion was open for this question. So hoping for a bunch of good answers here. I think there's a lot of good answers you can choose from for this particular category. But we're going to go and start with the representative of the Chokeslam. We're going to start with Nico. Nico, what have you chosen for your selection for this question?
So my selection for the most underrated feud of the 2000s is the very brief but very high-octane 2009 TNA rivalry between Kurt Angle and Desmond Wolfe, or some people might know him, Nigel McGuinness. Now, this feud was like 5 matches long, and it lasted from mid-October all the way to the end of December, right before Hulk Hogan was set to debut in TNA in 2010. And Hulk Hogan is primarily the reason why I consider this feud to be so underrated, because none of the eyes were on TNA at the time this feud was going on. It wasn't until after Hulk Hogan debuted that all the eyes were on them, and so it kind of gets overshadowed. It kind of gets lost in the history. Like, these two gentlemen put on 5 matches, all with unique stakes that made each match interesting. They had a street fight. They finished off the rivalry with their own version of 3 Stages of Hell, which was the 3 degrees of pain. It took place inside a cage. First fall pins, second fall submissions, third fall escape the cage. Desmond actually got more wins in this feud, and yet Angle came out with the ending win, and it set up a lot of things for them moving forward. Kurt Angle got back in the title picture. AJ Styles went heel as a result of that title picture and later helped create fortune. Meanwhile, Desmond Wolfe got to be part of rivalries with D'Angelo De Niro, Abyss, and even had a brief stint with Fortune that didn't last long. And so, like, it's underrated because nobody really understands it happened because of Hulk Hogan.
Time.
All right, well said. That's a good choice from Nico's side. Let's go to his adversary. Andrew, what have you selected for most underrated feud of the 2000s?
I chose CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy when they feuded for the World Heavyweight Championship. When this started, when CM Punk cashed in immediately after Jeff Hardy won, and I think it's not only one of the best feuds of the 2000s, but just one of the best feuds ever, honestly. And the main reason why I consider this underrated is because if you look at, what, like, talk about, like, great feuds, especially with, like, these two guys, nobody talks about, CM Punk, who remembers that feud with Jeff Hardy. They always talk about, remember that feud with John Cena. Same thing with Hardy. You never hear anybody talk about his feud with Punk. It was, a pretty fantastic storyline that CM Punk turned heel for the first time after he cashed in, and they did this whole story on, CM Punk was the straight edge guy, no drugs, no alcohol, and then Jeff Hardy, who, was this punk rocker, pretty much the complete opposite of Punk. It was just, they were the perfect foil for each other. And I think this is what kind of catapulted CM Punk into superstardom. And I just can't wait to get into more of why I like it.
All right. Well said by both of our players. I guess I forgot that Hunter was going to keep track of time. That's one less job that I have to worry about. So I'm down to one job. My job's simple. So by both of our players, I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this one. So the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins speaking.
You said first off that Punk, this is the angle that catapulted him into superstardom. I disagree. I feel like the Straight Edge Society, which took place after this feud, is actually what catapulted him into superstardom. Just how good he was on the mic and everything he could do.
I very much disagree with that because, I think there would be no Straight Edge Society if he did not do this feud with Hardy. CM Punk was someone who, wasn't really all that trusted. And I think this was really the first time that he was in, like, a big feud. Yes, he has held the world title before, but they did absolutely nothing. They treated it as a joke. But this is the first time I feel like they really took both of these guys seriously. And
I would disagree with that too, because Jeff Hardy got a run with the WWE title in 2008 before your feud happened. So, like, they did give him a chance. Granted, it was a short chance, but he made the most of the 3 months he had with the title. And also, you brought up a plot point of your rivalry, which is that Jeff Hardy, he was this rocker, live without fear sort of guy, and that's part of the reason why they probably don't talk about this feud that much, is because of that live or let die freedom style that Jeff Hardy has caused him to get in trouble with the law, and therefore WWE doesn't really want to acknowledge any of the things he's done in the past because it means they're bringing up a felon that they've had on their roster. And also CM Punk also being the other half of this feud, it isn't really helpful either because of the fact that like CM Punk is not really well liked by Vince McMahon. Triple H is kind of warming back up to him, but because of the fact that you have two people that the company doesn't really want to talk about, that's why no one's talking about the feud. If they weren't on the company's bad side, their feud, as well as all the other feuds they've been a part of, would be getting talked about in spades on television.
I mean, let's be real. If WWE says what they say is a great feud, we got to take that with a grain of salt. They're obviously going to put what they want, and that's and I'm not talking about them talking about. I'm talking about the fans, because honestly, to me, as a fan of WWE, that's who I care about. I'm not talking to Vince McMahon about CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy. I'm going to talk to other fans about CM Punk and Jeff
also,
Hardy.
You're not really talking much about the matches that actually happened in your feud. I can name all 5 that happened within this feud. You had Wolf actually starting out. He made his debut by attacking Angle. That's the perfect way to start off your debut in a new company, is to go after the big shark, and he laid out Angle flat. Then they actually had some matches. Like their first fight was a street fight, and Wolf won that one by knocking Angle out with a lariat. And then the next one they had, actually, there was a week in between. Wolf actually answered an open challenge for AJ Styles when he was the TNA champ at the time, and he looked impressive in that match before Angle essentially sabotaged Wolf's chances at victory. So then that helps build up the feud even more. And then you have a match where Wolf once again gets the upper hand on Angle. He got the upper hand on Angle 3 times before they had another match at, I believe it was the Turning Point pay-per-view, where Angle finally got a win. And so that's what set up the 3 Degrees of Pain match. And it was beautifully done. Like the way they sold the match, the ring psychology in the match, like it just showed the potential that Desmond Wolf had to be someone in TNA, had his run in the company not gotten stopped by a hepatitis B case in 2011.
You're talking about like how great, Desmond Wolf looked in this feud, and how, good, Kurt Angle looked in this feud. But honestly, like, I don't remember Desmond Wolf doing much after this. And let's keep in mind, this is when I watched TNA.
There's the reason why, though, is because Hulk Hogan, when he got into TNA, so many things were going on, and a lot of it didn't make sense, that it's hard to keep track of anything that was going on in the company during the time he was there. So the stuff Desmond Wolf and Kurt Angle did do during those few years Hulk Hogan was with the company, it kind of gets lost in this weird cloud of, I have no idea what happened.
But I feel like, if this did a lot for Desmond Wolf, he would be able to overcome all that, and he would be able to, get people to talk about, remember when Desmond Wolf and Kurt Angle was in that great feud in TNA? Like, nobody says that. Nobody says that. While, and I think there's a reason for that.
Because no one was watching, because they were waiting until Hulk Hogan debuted to actually start watching.
All right. Good debate period by both of our players. We're going to go to the 60-second closing argument for both of our combatants. We started with Nico, so we're going to go with Nico to kick off the closings.
An underrated feud is a feud that's really good, but doesn't get the props that it deserves. Kurt Angle versus Desmond Wolf in TNA in 2009 was a really great feud, but it doesn't get the props that it deserves because not a lot of people were watching at the time. They were waiting for Hulk Hogan to officially enter the company at the start of 2010 before because that's when the big ratings boost would come in. People were watching CM Punk and Jeff Hardy. People were giving that feud its props when it was happening. And so like the fact that my feud didn't have enough eyes on it, your feud did. So that kind of so your feud isn't really underrated. It's just rated. My feud definitely is underrated because not a lot of eyes were on it. And they've put on great matches and it led to a lot of things for them coming up in the latter year, which you just don't remember because of the weird booking of Hogan and Bischoff that kind of threw everything out of whack in the company.
Time.
All right, Andrew, whenever you're ready, your 60 seconds will begin.
All right. I actually disagree. I mean, yes, more people watch WWE, but were people really watching CM Punk and Hardy? I don't think so. You look at what was going on at the time. More people were watching, John Cena versus Randy Orton was going on at the time. Even the Jericho versus Rey Mysterio was going on at the time. Those were feuds that were that more people were watching and more people were talking about. Nobody was talking about CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy, which went on. I think it went on from May to about August, and maybe even longer than that. But nobody was talking about it, and nobody. It's been over a decade, and still, looking back at the 2000s, nobody talks about Punk and Hardy. People talk about Jericho and Michaels. Like I said, Cena versus Orton, Batista versus Undertaker. Those are the matches people talk about, not Punk and Hardy.
All right. Great first question by both of our players, but now it's going to come down to the judges' decisions. Because we have two Kevins here, we're going to have to try and differentiate the two of them. So we're going to go to the Smasher. So what does the Smasher think about who got the point on this?
I think that both did well in presenting their points. I think Nico had a little more of the history and the specific matches that had gone on, and he was in very specifics. So I got to give him a little credit on that. I think Andrew, I remember that feud from Andrew's era, and that's the era of when every match was Cena and Orton, and everybody was getting sick of Cena and Orton. They were pushing that down everyone's face. And these two guys would still go out there and kind of steal the show. And if you remember, if I recall, they had Matt Hardy get involved in one of the matches, and it was cool as a guest referee. So, going into judging right now, the early advantage in my head was the CM Punk and Drew's whole side. Here's the thing with the underrated and the TNA, I remember that era too, and everybody's waiting for Hulk Hogan. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to think of it was underrated, but it was underrated, which led to what? And CM Punk's rise, that was WWE, and that was the beginning of it. It was the catalyst of it. It might not be the exact reason, but that feud was the beginning when he turned heel, and then the Straight Edge Society. Whereas you make a good point, Nico, but I think it kind of goes against you, is it's an underrated feud that you had with Nigel McGuinness or Desmond Wolfe, but nothing, right when Hulk Hogan came in, he just literally made everything about him, and everybody kind of forgot about your guys, which keeps it underrated, but then whatever happened, you know what I mean? Kurt Angle went on to do his own thing with other feuds, and Desmond Wolfe, had to leave the company, right? Because of the hepatitis. Mm-hmm. And that was in 2011, right? So that was like a year later. So he had a whole year that he really didn't do anything. So I'm going to give the point, unfortunately, Nico, because I love you and you're a dungeon head, but I got to give the point to the dude, because I just think that it's underrated in how far you see what CM Punk did and how unbelievably over he got in just a few years.
All right. So one side to the dude. Let's go to the other Kevin now. Kevin, where do you stand on this one?
I agree with the Smasher on a lot of his points, bringing up how Des Wolfe didn't do much after TNA due to the hepatitis thing. Kurt Angle broke off, did his own thing. That was a good attack, Andrew. Bringing up how Punk and Hardy was a straight edger versus the punk rocker. That was good on WWE's part. However, going into, in the 5-minute debate part, every time you brought up something talking about catapulting Punk into superstardom, Nico was ready. He said, the Straight Edge Society catapulted him into superstardom, and I agree with him there. You said it was his first big feud. No, Hardy was already taken seriously before that. I feel like Nico was just more prepared for what you had to offer, and he countered a lot more of your arguments. So my point's going to go to Nico.
All right, so I guess that means it comes down to me. It's kind of interesting because I feel like both of our players kind of interpreted the question in a different way. like one went with a feud that was really big, but is kind of forgotten about in the grand scheme of Ultimate Great Feuds, and the other one just kind of went with one that is kind of forgotten just because of what the company was and what they did afterwards. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of two completely different realms of the question, which I really liked that. So you kind of brought two completely different arguments to the question. Ultimately, when it came down to it, I actually agree a little bit more with Smasher's idea with what Andrew talked about when it came to the relevance of what the matches were. I do appreciate the fact that Nico did bring up the matches, his actual matches more, which is why I was kind of leaning a little bit more towards Nico for a little bit more of it. But I think I like the fact that Andrew countered a lot about what he said about where the feud ultimately went, and kind of the reason why Nico's particular feud is more underrated. It's kind of just become underrated because everything that happened afterwards, the company just completely flushed down the toilet. So I actually am going to give the point to Andrew here, which is something for a good long while during that debate I was not really expecting. So Andrew will take the first point on this. So I'm sure that was not expected by most people.
Definitely not by me.
All right, so we go to the second question, and we talked about great feuds, and now we got to talk about some bad things that have come. And one of the worst things that can happen in wrestling is when a great tag team is split up for ungodly reasons that make no sense. And there have been some pretty horrid tag team splits over the years. And kind of like the first question, we gave no leadway. We allowed this open for any promotion. We wanted to ask the question, what is the worst tag team split of all time? So we started with Nico in the first question. We're going to start with Andrew in this one. Andrew, what is your choice for the worst tag team split in wrestling history?
I believe that the worst tag team split in the history of all professional wrestling is when WWE randomly decided to split for no reason up American Alpha. I chose them for a bunch of reasons, actually. But the main reason is they did it just so they can go with this terrible storyline with, Jason Jordan is Kurt Angle's illegitimate son, where that went nowhere. That ruined all momentum of Jason Jordan. And then Chad Gable, who I felt bad for him because he was doing a good thing with American Alpha, and now he's not in anything. Had to go team up with Shelton Benjamin, and they went nowhere, and it killed momentum. Both guys, Jason Jordan, unfortunately, is not wrestling due to injury, but you still look at what Chad Gable, or Shorty G as he's now known, he just hasn't recovered since then. I think it's actually it boggles my mind that they did this, considering how weak at the time the SmackDown tag team division was, and considering they had just come off a tag title run. They could have had a great feud with the Usos. They could have also, New Day just came over. They could have had a great feud with them, and probably other teams as well. There was so much potential there, and they just wasted it.
Time.
All right, good choice by Andrew's part. Let's now go to Nico and what Nico has chosen for his selection.
So, I once again went with the TNA storyline here. Matt and Nick Jackson, we know them as the Young Bucks, but for a brief stint in TNA, they were known as Max Buck and Jeremy Buck Generation Me. And during their tenure in TNA, they had a great rivalry with the Motor City Machine Guns, and they had a couple X Division title opportunities as well with Frankie Kazarian. Now, during those opportunities with Frankie Kazarian, they were set up to break up in the weirdest way. Like, Max Buck was basically like, I'm the favorite of our parents, and because my birthday's coming up, I want you to give me the win in this title match here, because it was a 4-way with them and Kazarian and Robbie E. And then it just ballooned into like Max being jealous of Jeremy and not wanting to let him get any of the spotlight. Where this went wrong, though, was because after the legitimate firing of Jay Lethal from the company and the misuse of the X Division by, again, Hogan and Bischoff, they suddenly just halted the breakup between these two. They brought them back together without any reason as to why, and had them go into Bischoff's office with Amazing Red and Brian Kendrick to just yell at Bischoff, and then like nothing happened, and like it went nowhere. And I feel like a breakup that goes nowhere in terms of like they just bring them back together is worse than what Andrew's proposing.
All right, good choices by both of our players, even though both answers are wrong. The answer is obviously Crime Time, but we're not going to get into any more of that. So without further ado, the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins.
I think that the main reason, especially why mine is worse, is because at least yours there was a story made out of it.
Was there? Because
yeah,
it got abandoned then. It like I feel like
there was at least something there, and it makes sense kind of why they did it. Something that we've seen a bunch of times, and it's something that we've seen work a bunch of times. With American Alpha splitting, there was no rhyme, no reason to it. It was just so they could do, like I said, this terrible storyline where Jason Jordan became Kurt Angle's illegitimate son.
Was it terrible though? Because it got Jason Jordan the solo spotlight he needed to branch out on his own. They put him with a legend in the business who could help groom him to become the star that the backstage people thought he could be. And he got Intercontinental title opportunities. He got opportunities with the tag title as part of the members of the Shield that were still on Raw. He made the most of the opportunities he was given up until his neck injury took him out of action. And as for Chad Gable, he made the most of the opportunities given to him after Jason Jordan left his side too. Having Shelton Benjamin by your side, a veteran like him,
but they did nothing with him. Yes, it's cool.
They gave them tag title opportunities too. They had him feud with.
They had what, like one, maybe two, even 3 matches with the Usos. But again,
and the New Day and Rusev Day, who were very popular at that time. You say the SmackDown tag division was weak, but I feel like it had a lot of strength to it. It had a lot of people that the fans wanted to cheer for, and just having Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin on that roster too, by proxy, it gave them something to like about them as well. And then after they split, Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable, Chad Gable got to insert himself into the U.S. title feud with AJ and Kevin Owens. And then this past year, he got to be part of the King of the Ring tournament where he was the runner-up. Yeah, we did a weird thing with the Shorty G, but the fact that he still made it to the runner-up position of a tournament that they only bring back for like the rarest occasions nowadays, is a big deal for him.
But that happened last year, and they split up in, 2017.
Hey, you brought up CM Punk and what he did after that 2009 kid in the previous question.
I'm getting to that. So like it took what, 2 years more for Chad Gable or Shorty G to finally do something relevant. Yes, you mentioned him with Shelton Benjamin, but that was never relevant. Nobody truly cared about that. You mentioned the stuff with Jason Jordan, how he was with this legend. It put him in the spotlight, but he was getting go away heat. You know how bad that is when you get go away heat? They could have done something.
And they actually did take him away, and then they brought him back when they felt like he had adapted to the situation. Like he made the most of the opportunities he was given. And meanwhile, Generation Me, they didn't even get a chance to take advantage of the opportunity they were given. They could have made something special out of this breakup angle, but then they just brought them back together without a say or anything. And the worst part is like they didn't even really let them take advantage of the very short time they spent as singles competitors, because they just kept having Max lose to Kazarian in every opportunity they were given. Like, what was the point of breaking them up if you weren't going to give one of them the X Division title to begin with? And like, you had something good with them as a tag team. Why didn't you give them the tag belts in the feud with the Machine Guns? Like, they didn't know how to use Generation Me in any capacity.
And I don't think they knew how to use American Alpha. Because obviously they didn't know what to do with them, because they split them up for no reason. At least they made a storyline out of yours. They made out of the two of them feuding.
but at least one of your tag teammates that got split up got titles in the end of it, and they both got title opportunities out of it and made the most of it. In this case, like
They both
never
got
let
exhibition
them have.
title shots. So if we're
No,
talking
only
about,
Max did. Well, technically, okay. Yeah, technically you're right. Okay, I screwed up on that one. But by the way, this, along with all the other nonsense that TNA put Generation Me through, it almost killed their love of wrestling to the point that they wanted to quit after they asked for their release. So everything we know and love about wrestling, from the crazy matches that the Young Bucks had in PWG, all the way to the creation of AEW, it might not have happened because of this tag team angle that went nowhere with Generation Me.
but it didn't hurt them in the end, because obviously you just said all this stuff happened. It didn't hurt them in the end. It hurt both guys so much. Jordan
It killed their love of wrestling. What's worse than having the love of
obviously
your
not.
Time.
Oh, it.
All right, that was a very heated back and forth. A lot of facts and passion were brought into this one. I'm really liking where this one was going from both sides. But we got to close it out, so we're going to go to the closing arguments. We started with Andrew. We're going to go with Andrew in his closing statement. Your 60 seconds will begin whenever you're ready.
When Jason Jordan, I should say, was seemingly kind of, I guess, finally hit his groove with this whole Kurt Angle thing, he was still getting booed immensely. He was getting I would say he was getting just as much as Roman Reigns, if not more than Roman Reigns, when this was all going on, and that's saying a lot. And with Chad Gable, yes, he was with, Shelton Benjamin, and then he was with Robert Roode, but that meant nothing. I think both of them work best as in tag teams. And they put them all in different tag teams, and that never worked because they never had the chemistry with other people that they had with each other, and they broke them up for no reason. Prematurely, there was never a turn. There was never, a moment of, Chad Gable turning on Jordan or vice versa. At least you had that moment where, one was like, hey, I'm better than you. And then the other one was jealous. At least that makes sense.
Nico, whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
I feel like my breakup is worse because it didn't actually get to be a breakup. It got to be something that TNA threw away, like every other angle that they've thrown away during that time that Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff were with the company. Jason Jordan, he looks fondly on that time he spent as Kurt Angle's son, to the point that he still smiles every time Kurt Angle acknowledges that he was his television son online on social media. I think they just tweeted something about Christmas a few months back. And Chad Gable, he's still approaching things with a smile. He's still getting opportunities as well. And that's the thing. Your guys still got to do stuff. They still got to be in the title picture, in a variety of title pictures, and make the most of those opportunities. My guys never really got to take advantage of that. They never got to take advantage of the opportunities that they were given, because those opportunities kept getting taken away. And because they kept getting taken away, and because of all the nonsense TNA put them through, it killed their love of wrestling to the point that they almost quit it completely, and wrestling as we know it today would not exist.
All right. That was a very good question. Very good debate by both players. I'm going to lead off on this one. This was really tough. I think both players brought, again, kind of a different style to what made theirs the worst. One brought up the fact that it was so bad, it made them question what the wrestlers thought about their future in the company as a whole. The other one talked about the diminishing values that both of them had as a tag team, which both make sense in the grand scheme. I think ultimately, when it came down to it, I like the fact that Nico brought up a little bit more, that the fact that his split was so bad that it didn't even really last very long, and then it was immediately 86, which is to me kind of a definition of what makes a really bad split, when it's just completely forgotten about as quickly as you can possibly imagine. Where eventually, I like the fact that Nico also brought up the fact that eventually, even though it was acknowledged that it has taken quite a while, eventually Jason Jordan did get an opportunity, and unfortunately circumstances beyond his control ruined it. And Chad Gable has gotten in eventually got an opportunity eventually. So I like the fact that Nico did bring up that stuff. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Nico on this one. So let's now go to the Smasher now. Smasher, where do you stand on this?
Well, the Rockers, I think, are the greatest breakup. I mean, that was such a slow, burn, and I just want to give a shout out to the Rockers and the way they broke up. But both brought up good points. American Alpha, they weren't getting over though. They were huge in NXT, and everybody loved them. And then they came to the main roster, and no one. You say that no one. He was getting go away heat, but when they were a tag team, they were too. They weren't getting the love that they thought they would. Once they got the call up, they just weren't getting over. And the fact is that Jason Jordan totally got opportunities. He, even if it got shit on, pardon my language, he got those opportunities. He got to be Kurt Angle's son, and Chad Gable got his opportunities too with Bobby Roode and all those opportunities. Nico brings up a good point, and it's what gives him the point as far as I'm concerned. And you both did great as far as arguing your points. But I watched PWG. I lived near PWG, so I've seen them live all the time. Like back in the day when Ronda Rousey would go there as a fan, it was great, and they were awesome. And so the fact that they were broken up was blasphemy. And the fact that they got X division opportunities, but they weren't paired with Kurt Angle or some, one of them wasn't Hulk Hogan's son. They didn't get that opportunity. They were split, and then they were unceremoniously brought back together. No one got a title after that. They really didn't have any opportunities, and then they just abandoned it like TNA typically did. So, and then the fact that they requested their release, like that, when you can kill someone's passion that closely, that quickly, it's hands down Nico's point for sure.
All right, so Nico gets the second point, so that ties this matchup at 1 apiece. This becomes a very, very important question right here. We're going to the world of AEW, and this is interesting because we've had this question on the docket for a long time, and because it took a while for this match to come together, it gave both of our players plenty of time to come up with an answer for this, and plenty more matches have taken place since then. So the question is, what is the best match in AEW to date? Obviously, there's quite a few more matches that have happened since this match first came together. So I'm curious as to where both of our players are going to go with this one. Let's start with Nico. Nico, what have you chosen for AEW's best match so far?
So I have chosen from All In, the inaugural AEW event, unofficially but also officially, Marty Scurll taking on Kazuchika Okada. So this was built around the two storylines. Marty Scurll is trying to prove himself against all the doubters who have regulated him to the junior heavyweight division. How does he attempt to prove that? By taking on the best heavyweight wrestling champion in Japanese history. At the same time, Okada is at his own crossroads. He's trying to prove that he's still one of the best after his title loss to Kenny Omega screwed up his mojo. Yeah, it was red hair and long pants Okada in the middle of his quest to get back to golden hair, short pants, Super Saiyan Okada. And I feel like this match really succeeded at everything it wanted to do. It got Okada back on track with the win, back on track to becoming that NJPW final boss that we know him as today. And while it also established Marty Scurll in defeat as someone who can put on a high caliber match with literally anyone of any size in any promotion, someone who would be worthy of later challenging for the Ring of Honor and the NWA World Championships within the span of the following calendar year. It established Marty Scurll as someone who Ring of Honor would spend almost their entire bank on to keep him on their roster, while also allowing him in that bank breaking contract to go to other promotions and reestablish ties to Ring of Honor with the promotions that they kind of are at a rocky road with right now. It did everything it set out to do. That's my time.
All right, just for clarification, Nico even asked us ahead of time if the All-In event did count, and I allowed it. So we, no surprise there. So that answer is qualified. So Andrew, whenever you're ready, what is your choice for best AEW match to date?
I chose for the best AEW match. From Double or Nothing, I chose Cody versus Dustin. I chose this one mainly because of the story. The story, while simple on the surface, brother versus brother, is honestly much more than that. You have, Dustin trying to prove that he still got it at, when he's in his 50s, and Cody wanting to kill the Attitude Era. He wants, the Attitude Era gone, doesn't want it around anymore, and wanting to end that once and for all. And what I think makes this so special is the emotion that both guys were able to bring out of each other. And I say this a lot, a crowd adds a lot to a match, and this crowd added so much to this match, made this match so much more special. And this is, this reminded me why I love wrestling, and reminded me, why I think, as good as, the flippy stuff is cool, why storyline always trumps. And I think that this is not only the best AEW match, but the best match of last year.
All right. So the 5 minutes will begin when the first person begins speaking. Obviously, this is a very important point. So let's bring some passion into this.
All right. First off, your match has a botch early when Cody's trying to roll Dustin back into the ring after he had knocked him out of the ring. You get outside interference from Brandy twice. My match didn't need any outside interference. Cody versus Dustin, it requires a lot of suspension of disbelief because of how much it follows the 1980s style of wrestling that Cody loves. The strikes are coming from angles in which you shouldn't be able to generate power from those positions where they're throwing the strikes from. Meanwhile, in my match, because it followed the strong style format, having Kazuchika Okada in it, it makes it feel a little bit more realistic. There's a lot of stopping and starting of action going on in your match, and I'll let you say a little bit more now.
Okay. Well, I think the Brandy interfering stuff, that added so much more. And, so the botch, it didn't hurt the match. Obviously, Dave Meltzer gave this match 5 stars. If that botch really meant anything, if you can even call it a botch.
But my match didn't have any botches, and also my match didn't need interference from an outside person.
But that added to the story of Brandy. Without Brandy interfering, I truly believe that the match would not have been as good, because it added so much to the story. As little as that kind of was, it added so much to the story.
But isn't the story being told in my match better because it doesn't need the things that your match did need?
No, absolutely not. And the main problem, I think, with your match is that your match goes on a little too long, and that's me putting it nicely. My match
it goes on for just the right amount of time.
No,
dude.
Absolutely. Your match went on so long that it affected other matches. It literally affected.
There was one more match. There was one more match after that one, and it finished on time, barely, but it finished on time.
That match could have been so much more. So it literally affected other matches. And if you look at that card, that still isn't even, like, take that main event out of the equation. I'm not even going to mention that main event anymore. You look at your card, it still isn't even the best match, because you have Pentagon Jr. versus Kenny Omega, which, in my opinion, blows.
But here's the thing. We knew how those matches were going to go. We had no idea how Skrull versus Okada was going to go because of the story that they were telling. Like the heavyweight versus junior heavyweight, the junior heavyweight trying to prove that he belongs in the ring. You don't know if they're actually going to go the Rey Mysterio route or if they're going to actually have him lose.
I thought that was pretty predictable, that Okada was going to win. And
I didn't think so. I thought they were going to give the match to Skrull because he's a member of the Elite, and the Elite were putting on the show. So that was actually a surprise to me. Also, my match has the better commentary team. We both have Excalibur on our commentary teams, but I feel like having Don Callis and Ian Riccaboni on my team, it enhances my match, while Jim Ross he's getting up there in age, and he's kind of bringing your match down a little bit.
First of all, Don Callis is the most overrated commentator in all of wrestling, and I'm not even going to get into that.
That's like your opinion, man.
Yeah, no, and so Jim Ross added a lot. Yeah, I mean, Excalibur, obviously, like you said, that kind of cancels each other out. But just the fact, I think.
By the way, if we also factor in the referees. Earl Hebner let way too many illegal things go on in your match. Meanwhile, mine just has the best ref bump in all of ref bumps because he gets hit. He's not unconscious for 5 years. He's unconscious for like 30 seconds and then gets back up. But in the time that he was unconscious, the one dirty thing that happened in my match happened, and it was perfect. What better way to stop the Rainmaker's Rainmaker than with an umbrella to the head? It's beautiful irony, and I love that spot so much.
I love how you bring up interference and how your match would need, but your guy literally did an illegal thing. So I think that just
you had a weight belt being used to literally whip people.
But with the referee's discretion is something that they use.
Why is Earl Hebner letting it go? Why because it also shows a crucial problem with AEW right now that they don't know what their rules are. They keep changing the rules to fit the match, and it's not consistent.
That is something that they made clear, I think, pretty much from the beginning, that referee's discretion is something that will be used. If the referee feels that the match should go on, no matter what, that should go on. And something like Cody versus Dustin, brother versus brother, where there's so much heated passion, and where they just need to hash.
And you don't think my match had passion? Like you
had not as much as Cody versus Dustin.
You had Okada and Skrull getting in each other's face, taunting each other. They were Skrull was taking a beating, but he kept getting back up because he wanted to prove to Okada that he belonged in the ring with him when Okada didn't think the same.
Time.
That was kind of interesting because I like how Nico brought up the fact that something that Andrew said is his own opinion and then follows it up by saying something that's his opinion.
His opinion.
I don't know. It's late. I'm getting creative here.
Yeah, that's the ref bump, the eye gouge, if I've ever seen one. So we're now going to get to the closing arguments. Obviously, again, as I preface, this is a very important point. Both of our players still have their 1 minute extension for their closing arguments at any point if they wish to use it. So we're going to start with Nico and your closing argument. If you wish to use your extension, you can say so. Otherwise, your 60 seconds will begin when you're ready.
I feel like actually, I'm going to use the extension.
No, you already started talking. I got to let.
Dang it. All right. So I feel like my match had the better storytelling. The way Marty Scurll, he kept trying to use strongman moves to show that he belonged in the ring with the true heavyweight, but he couldn't get it up. He had to actually beat up Okada a little bit first, and then he finally hit that brain buster later on. My match had the better move thief spot, where after Scurll hits Okada with the umbrella, he hits Okada with a rainmaker of his own, which came out of nowhere. It was beautiful. As Skrull earned Okada's respect by Okada having to hit the Rainmaker on him twice without going for a pinfall first. He was like, nope, I'm going to make sure you stay down. Both competitors essentially won in that way. Your match had a very flat ending. It feels like Cody slams Dustin, then Dustin just lays there. He picks him up, hits the crossroads, 1, 2, 3. It didn't feel like it had that out of nowhere oomph to really sell how good the match was. My match did have that out of nowhere oomph that made it feel great.
Time.
Right. Andrew, whenever you're ready, your time will begin.
I very much disagree with the fact that you say your story is better, because mine, just the fact that of how much emotion everybody was feeling after that. Even Cody and Dustin were feeling so much emotion. There was not a dry eye after that match. Mine got the 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. Yours, I think, got 4.25. Mine was the best match on the card, while yours wasn't. I could name 2 matches that are better than yours. And I think all, the Brandy interfering, the blood, all the stuff that you say are bad, it added so much more. And I think that without those things, the match simply wouldn't have been as good. And I very much disagree with you say the ending was flat. I don't think the match needs an out-of-nowhere finish. And the fact that he had to pick him up and then hit him again, I think also shows Dustin respect.
Time.
All right. That was a great
that was a really good one.
That was really good. I agree with that.
I printed out too many pages of notes for that one. I couldn't keep track of my points.
That seems to be a trend with you, Nico. We'll see if it comes back to bite you in the ass on this one. We're gonna go to the smasher on this one. Mr. Smets, where do you stand on this?
I mean, Nico, you make great points, but I think your selection for me, like, can you watch Okada on AEW this week? No. Squirrel, can you see him on AEW? No. In fact, did they ever, like, I don't feel like if you search, All In was the catalyst in the beginning of AEW, but I don't consider that an AEW match. Like, I don't. So that, I mean, and you made great points, and then even during the lull, I went and I was trying to find All In, and I type in AEW All In, and you can't find it that way. It wasn't an AEW pay-per-view. So I have to, in my head, go with, and I remember the match, Dustin Rhodes versus Cody, and the drama and all that helps out too. And the match between Okada and Squirrel was great. Like, technically it was great, and I love the strong style, and it felt like an epic match, but it felt like an epic match between two people from, ROH, different leagues. Like, it wasn't AEW. And so I have to immediately, I mean, you were making great points, but as early as 1 minute into this round, the point was already for Andrew, because it's not an AEW match. Sorry, buddy. That was a choice.
I had something written down for that, and I forgot to get to that.
Yeah, if you could have swayed my way, I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt because you're making great points, but I couldn't even search it online when I was typing AEW All In. It wasn't giving me anything. So, sorry, buddy.
All right, fair enough. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, where do you stand on this?
I also agree with the smasher. Nico, your points that you did bring to the table, your knowledge is unbelievable. I mean, you brought match details like the commentary team, the referee. You got the information about the people that are in it, but Andrew's points about the brother versus brother, the emotion of the story itself, about how Cody wants to kill the Attitude Era, Dustin wants to prove himself to still be a good wrestler, and how the crowd adds to a match. I don't really count Dave Meltzer's point of view in this, but I mean, bringing that up is something. I give my point to Andrew as well.
Andrew will take question 3 here. So we go now to the
I had a
final
ridiculously
question.
good point to make, and I'm so
all
mad
that for
right
a
now
drop
I
of
didn't.
blood, buddy. All that printed out paper. Sorry, I love you.
So we now go to the final question. We're going to go into the world of the Royal Rumble. Obviously, Royal Rumble season is right around the corner. So we wanted to give a special Royal Rumble based question for this. So we're going to stick with the decade that just passed to the 2010s. There was a lot of great Royal Rumbles that took place during that decade, but we wanted to ask both of our players, what was the best Royal Rumble match of the 2010s decade? This could be men's or women's. We gave no leeway on that, so it was all open. Any Rumble that took place during this decade. So, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. What was your choice for the best Rumble of the 2010s?
I ended up choosing the 2018 Men's Royal Rumble. I truly believe that this is not only the best one of last decade, but this is the best one of all time. I think there are a bunch of things you need to consider in, what makes a good Royal Rumble a good Royal Rumble. Obviously, you need the right winner, and this one absolutely had the right winner with Shinsuke Nakamura. I think, obviously, the pacing needs to be good. It's an hour-long match. That's a pretty long time for a match. And there can't be any, lulls in the action. Can't be any, times where action drags. And this, I think, had perfect pacing. The comedy spots came at the right time, and the comedy spots were absolutely brilliant. With Elias in the ring saying that time is an illusion. When I sing, time doesn't happen. And when the clock starts going down for the next guy, he starts freaking out. And with the Hurricane and Heath Slater, I thought that was all great. It obviously needs great surprises, and this absolutely had great surprises, specifically with the return of Rey Mysterio, where he got a huge pop, standing ovation. And obviously the Hurricane, like I said, was a great surprise. And seeing Adam Cole and Andrade Cien Almas come out was pretty fantastic. And I think it needs to be unpredictable as well. And I couldn't predict who was going to win between Shinsuke and Roman Reigns.
Time.
All right, good choice by Andrew. Let's now go to Nico. What is your selection for the best Rumble of this most recent decade?
So I went with the 2010 Royal Rumble. Bleacher Report ranks the 2010 Rumble as the third greatest Rumble match ever. Cultaholic has it listed at number 2 overall, while Andrews is listed at number 6. And What Culture has mine listed at number 1, while Andrews is number 3. The 2010 Royal Rumble match has everything you want in a Rumble, from structure to star power to big surprises to fluid storytelling between multiple different arcs going on in the company's product, tying them all together in one nice bow. Because today it doesn't really feel like WWE knows how to really tie the storylines together for these big multi-person matches anymore. And in this case, it did. It set up so many storylines going into WrestleMania, so many matches going into WrestleMania, and you had brilliant character work done by guys like CM Punk, Khali, and Beth Phoenix. You had the dynamic going on with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Like Shawn Michaels is desperate to get that match with The Undertaker, that he's going to do whatever it takes. And then when he doesn't get it, he has like a near panic attack and goes through all the 5 stages of grief right before our eyes, knocking out 2 different referees because of it. And like he walks up the ramp and looks like someone just shot his family right in front of him. That's how distraught he is by having lost the Rumble, because he, at that point in time, he thought it was the last way he could get that match with The Undertaker. Then you have that brilliant surprise entrance with Edge, eliminating Chris Jericho in the process, and I'm out of time.
All right. So I remember watching both of these Rumbles live. I love both of these Rumbles with passion. But so really interested to see what both of our players are going to bring to the table here. So the 5-minute debate period will begin when the first person begins speaking. Good luck to both of you.
I think, surprise of Rey Mysterio is a lot better than and more surprising than the surprise of Edge, because Edge was injured. We knew sooner or later he was coming back. And
yeah, but he was injured and predicted to not come back until at the very least after WrestleMania. And the internet wasn't as strong as it is now. So surprises were true surprises, and no one knew where Edge was in his recovery. Everyone thought he was going to be back way later, and instead he comes back at the number 29 spot and eliminates the guy who he was tag team champions with, that kind of just pushed him to the side the moment he was no longer of use to it. And it set up a perfect storyline for the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania. And that's something that your match is actually lacking, is that your match, other than Shinsuke versus AJ, it doesn't set up any other matches for WrestleMania, because the company really has no idea what they want to do for WrestleMania 34.
This one really didn't need to do that, because all it needed to do, in my eyes, Shinsuke versus AJ, the match everybody wanted to see. And I think, it isn't out of the question for someone to return from injury early.
My match gave you 3. My match set up 3 matches you wanted to see at WrestleMania. It set up The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels 2.
But that match didn't set up that one. That was the Elimination Chamber. Undertaker,
but it set up the driving. It set up the emotion for Shawn Michaels to go to the greatest of lengths to get that match with The Undertaker. Because this was originally his last chance, and then he figured, okay, I have to get desperate. I have to screw The Undertaker over at the next pay-per-view if I want to get this match with him. And by the way, there's a lot of storytelling going on in my match as well, simply with Shawn Michaels alone, because he's wearing the exact same tights that he wore at WrestleMania 25 when The Undertaker beat him in that match. It shows how desperate he wants that rematch with The Undertaker.
I would say the Elimination Chamber showed how much desperate he was, even more so, and this match did not.
Both matches can show his desperation. It's just
if this match really set up Undertaker, Shawn Michaels would have won. And I don't think it's out of the question of seeing someone return from injury early at the Rumble, because John Cena did it 2 years prior. So I don't think it was as surprising as it was. It wasn't even more surprising when Rey Mysterio, who's been out of the company for years, and he comes back and to this standing ovation does incredibly well.
And Ed came out to a standing ovation as well. But to touch on a few more of the spots in my match here, you got CM Punk, Straight Edge Society cult leader CM Punk. He enters the match at number 3, eliminates Dolph Ziggler and Evan Bourne, and then he does something I have never seen in the Rumble done before. He starts eliminating people one by one, taking a break in between to preach the good word of straight edge in between, and he's like mocking everyone that comes into the ring. And then the moment Khali comes in, he's like, "Oh, please don't hurt me, big giant man, sir."
But they did something similar to that in the 2011 Rumble. Better, and they had
mine still came first. Mine still did it first.
But it doesn't matter if it came first. It matters if it was done better
and again,
or not.
My match has the better overall storytelling because you have the angle with CM Punk preaching straight edge, but you also have Khali. He's doing his Punjabi Playboy gimmick, and what befalls him in the match? It's a woman, Beth Phoenix, using her feminine charm and also her giant muscles. She yanks Khali out of the ring with a kiss, and then. She gets to have she gets to make history. She's only the second woman ever to have entered a Rumble match ever. And then you have something setting up a future rivalry in 2011 when Triple H is the one who eliminates CM Punk. And then in comes Shawn Michaels. You get that DX. And like Triple H actually saves Shawn Michaels from being eliminated, but Shawn Michaels super kicks Triple H out of the ring. He's the one who eliminates Triple H from the match. It's setting up how much Shawn Michaels wants that match with The Undertaker, that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get it. You have a cool stare down with DX and John Cena. And you have MVP getting jumped by The Miz, which is a callback to something that happened earlier in the night. And I realize I'm taking up too much of your time here.
Yeah. See, I think a big problem with your match is that it didn't create new stars. I think the Royal Rumble at its best needs to create new stars. Mine created a new star in Shinsuke Nakamura. Edge was already a star. And
Nakamura was a star in NXT.
Yeah, but not on the main roster. He had the stuff with Jinder that completely derailed all momentum he had, and they fixed all that with the 2018.
He was a star on the main roster in terms of the fans always gave him the reaction that he was deserving of. It was basically the company that didn't use him right. And I feel like your match is a little bit overrated simply because it was a good match that happened in an era where.
By the way, this argument's about the best. It's not the event; it's the actual Royal Rumble, right?
Yes,
the best
about
Royal
the
Rumble match.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Sorry if I didn't clarify that earlier.
That's fine.
It's typical me. So
I was listening. I assumed that, and I was listening as you were assuming it was the actual Royal Rumble, not the full event. So
yeah. All right. So we're gonna go into the closing arguments now. We started with who did we start with?
I started.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I already forgot. That's how dumb I is. So, Andrew, whenever you're ready, your closing argument can begin whenever you're ready.
I'm going to use my extra 1 minute, by the way.
All right. So your 2 minutes will begin whenever you're ready.
A point that I would like to touch upon is, like I said, I think what makes a Royal Rumble special is if it's unpredictable. Mine was unpredictable because there were two possible winners. The one everybody wanted to win, Shinsuke Nakamura. And the person nobody wanted to win, Roman Reigns. And WWE was smart enough to keep them to the very last two people, which kept so much tension, kept everybody on the edge of their seat. And nobody was relieved in this match until Roman got thrown over. Everybody, a huge pop. And I think the second Edge came out, it was clear who the winner was going to be. Edge isn't going to return like that if he's not going to win. So that kind of takes away the tension that makes Royal Rumbles so great. It makes just matches great. And I think mine had plenty of great moments as well. You had, like I said, Mysterio returning, the funny moment with Slater, Elias, and there was the final six. You had the three old school guys, the Mysterio, Orton, and Cena going against the three new school guys in Balor, Nakamura, and Roman Reigns, and that was great. And the final four was having Shinsuke eliminate both Cena and Roman Reigns made him look even more, that much more better. And I think so many people looked strong that needed to look strong after this match. The people that look strong in your match didn't really need to look strong, while the people in my match need to look strong. You know, Rusev had a great show, and Balor obviously had a great show, Nakamura. This even made Roman Reigns look really good in a time where Reigns was booed out of the building every night. And you just, everything that you want in a Royal Rumble happens in this one.
Time.
All right. Well said. Took up his entire 2 minutes to perfection. We're going to go to Nico. I'm assuming you're going to use your 1 minute extension because you might as well.
Yes.
All right. Your 2 minutes will begin whenever you're ready.
Andrew's match is unpredictable because nobody was sure what Vince McMahon was going to rewrite the morning of the match. And I feel like your match is getting more praise than it deserves simply because it was a good Rumble that happened in an era of WWE where the writing is not great. So therefore, it's getting overrated. Rhino looks like a chunky shell of his former self when he enters your match at number 3. Heath Slater is getting mugged by everyone before he can even get into the ring because that's basically Vince McMahon's style of humor. It was written for Vince McMahon and for no one else. Finn Balor is credited for having lasted an hour in the match, but both he and Rusev spent about 5 to 10 minutes on the floor. Big E force-fed Heath Slater crotch pancakes. Matt Stryker is a much better commentator than Corey Graves is, so that's a point for my match. Seth Rollins looks really silly wearing the pants with flames on them. At least with HBK's attire for the Rumble, there was some symbolism going for it. Kofi avoided elimination in 2018 by standing on a plate of pancakes and then hopping on one foot, which raises a giant question of why did he bother doing the handstand in 2011 and why did he bother hopping on JBL's chair a few years later? Like, you basically created a giant Rumble plot hole in terms of Kofi avoiding eliminations. Aiden English's music sounds like Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter, and now because he entered the Royal Rumble match of yours, I now know it sounds like that. Titus O'Neil didn't trip on his way to the ring, which I feel like actually hurts your match because it was hilarious when he tripped at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Miz trying to use Daniel Bryan's kicks is just flat out sad and depressing. I'm a martial artist. When I like it when kicks have technique. His kicks have no technique whatsoever. And again, your match didn't really set up any other matches other than the one with the winner and the champ. Mine set up 3. I yield my time.
All right.
Well, I like the fact that both of them took their 2 minutes and completely different strategies. You know, a good reason. The other one just went bullet, 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 and
Pants referee.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually think the consistent making of points consistently quick, I think, just gave him a lot more of an edge. No pun intended, because obviously Edge won. Yeah,
Good job.
I see what you did there.
Didn't mean.
I see what you did there.
It's got nothing to do with the fact I'm wearing an Edge shirt too. Yeah, that's completely irrelevant. But yeah, I like the fact that Nico used the 2 minutes. He got out as many bullet points as he could. Brought up the fact that it set up more matches, which I think is important because I think that's what the Rumble ultimately should do: is set up as many more matches for for WrestleMania as you possibly can. Also, I think Andrew kind of missed some opportunities here. You know, the whole HBK panic attack thing. I personally always felt that took a little bit too long because it went about 5 minutes, which I thought was a little bit overkill. But Andrew never brought that up, which I think could have been a good bullet point. Also, during the whole HBK Triple H thing during the meat of that Rumble, I think gets a little long and a little plotting at times. But neither of those points were brought up, and I think ultimately there's just a little bit more from Nico's side that I like, that I don't think Andrew quite countered as much. He did get some good counters in there, but ultimately I think just heard a little bit more from Nico's side, so I'm going to give the point to Nico. So Smasher, now that I've taken about 3 minutes.
We'll let the other Kevin go, because I've been going first every time, so I'll acquiesce to the other Kevin.
That's fine. So Kevin, where do you stand?
I stand. Let me just say, Andrew, you put up a a good fight. You almost lost me with it being the best of all time, but the pacing, I did like that. Your point about needing to create new stars and how Edge was already an established star, and then you turned around and you argued about Ray coming back. That kind of countered your own argument. I do agree with JTH though about how Nico just was banging out the points. I couldn't even write them down fast enough. But as far as the structure, the star power, the multiple storylines, setting up the 3 matches, the Michaels Taker match and the Edge surprise entry, setting up the world title shot with Christian, Nakamura already basically being a star in NXT, and you said crotch pancakes for crying out loud. So my point goes to Nico.
All right, so we're all tied up. We're going to go to a speed round. For those that aren't aware, basically how it's going to work is I'm going to throw out a question that may be a straightforward question or could have any answer. Basically, as soon as I'm done asking the question, the first person that thinks they have the best answer can say so. And basically, we're going to start with a 30-second debate, and then they'll both do 30 seconds. And both of them will have a 20-second rebuttal, and then another 20-second rebuttal. So there's 3 different stints: 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 20 seconds. So, without further ado, I like the fact that we have a Schmoedown competitor here. Got the draft going on. We got all these factions that are taking place. Wanted to have a little bit of fun with this speed round question. So, when both of our players are ready, the question is, speed round question: what wrestling faction has the best name?
D-Generation X.
The X for Andrew. Waiting for a response from Nico.
Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Oh.
Interesting. I'm not going to try and spell that or pronounce that whatsoever. I will leave that to the person that just gave that answer. So,
No, I did.
Of course, you give me the one with the Spanish.
all right. So, Andrew, you led the way with your choice. Your first 30 seconds will begin whenever you're ready.
Just for clarification, it's the coolest name, right?
Yes, best name.
Best name, okay.
The dungeon is the best name. Sorry.
I knew you were going to say that. I won $50.
All right. So the reason why D-Generation X has the best name is because it's not one. It's not a mouthful to say like Nico's. 2, it's just cool to say. It makes me cool. I feel cooler saying D-Generation X, and that's exactly what they were as a faction. And it, just the name just showed you exactly what they were.
All right. Nico, whenever you're ready.
So my faction's name is a tribute name. Like, they already took it from one faction in Mexico and adapted it for their Japanese faction because they loved it so much. So it has that going for it. And also, they get the entire crowd to say both the faction name and every member's name along with it. That's how powerful and strong of a name it is. And you want to talk about coolness. Like, this faction embodies cool. You say you identify with DX. Well, that means you're identifying with degenerates. Like, why would you want to do that?
Time.
All right. Explain yourself, Andrew. 20 seconds.
All right. Well, first of all, just DX, it's one of the more iconic name. And I don't really mind being a degenerate. I mean, it was cool to be a degenerate, especially back in the 90s when DX was at the height of its powers.
Time.
Nico, whenever you're ready.
maybe DX is more iconic in America, but Los Ingobernables de Japón is iconic in multiple places because, again, it's a Mexican name that was adapted for a Japanese faction. It's a tribute name. Shoot, I forgot my last point. Crap.
Time.
Way to go, bro. All right.
Oh, dear Lord.
There's your don't tell Peter.
Answer that.
There's your don't tell Peter.
I think the fact that mine is original and not an homage or whatever makes mine just that much cooler and better. The fact that Degeneration X is made up word is cool and honestly should have a definition in the dictionary.
Time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Final 20 seconds of this match. Nico, whenever you're ready.
The name Los Ingobernables de Japón, it embodies independence. Like, it literally means we are not governable. And it shows by the members of the faction. They take no prisoners. They don't take no for an answer. Degeneration X, once they got older, like, they stopped being cool. So therefore the name stopped being cool because it elderly people are using it now.
Time.
All right. So that was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't do well in the speed round, damn it.
Neither do I. I was fearing this round so much.
So I'll lead this off. I felt that, as I said, both of our players kind of were a little discombobulated about the question. Andrew had kind of a weak opening. I'm not going to lie about that. And then kind of seemed like as the question went on, he started turning the question into why the team was more, or the stable was more iconic, and not really what made the team cool by name and association. I was expecting something about suck it, crotch chop, anything that would give the impression of what makes this like a cool faction to be a part of, and just didn't really get enough there. Well, Nico, while I don't have a freaking clue about what the faction is or how to say it or pronounce it or spell it or anything else, I at least got the impression and the idea of what makes that faction, known and cool, and with it, as the youngsters say, apparently nowadays, or maybe that was back in the 80s, what the kids said. So, just heard a little bit more from Nico, so I'm going to personally give the point to Nico here. So let's go over to Kevin. Kevin, where do you stand on this?
Like you said, this is kind of all over the place. One I don't know anything about. One I know a lot about, but I didn't hear a lot about. So the fact that they're cool is your opinion, so I can't really take that into account. You say they should have a definition in the dictionary. Generation X is not original. It has a definition in the dictionary.
Well, that was my point.
So, unfortunately, as JTH said, I don't know anything about Los Ingobernables de Japón. But if it is, it's a tribute name adapted to Japan from Mexico. The fact that they took it to Japan from Mexico, that to me shows how iconic it is, and so I have to give the point to Nico.
Well, at least you figured out how to say it after two mentions. I got bloated and then got completely lost. So. Smasher, would you have agreed with the verdict of the?
No, you guys are wrong, and I love you, Nico. Congratulations on the win, but I can't even freaking. I appreciate that she went that way, and that was a ballsy move. The easy move is to go NWO and really go NWO versus Degeneration X. Showed up unannounced to a WCW taping in a tank. Like they legit. I mean, I'm older. I'm dating myself here, but they were legit. I know you guys are like, oh, they weren't really cool. They were cool in the '90s, dude, because WCW took over, and we all love them. We love the NWO. But when WWF or WWE, whatever, WWF at that time, started getting more edgy and stuff, these guys spearheaded it. And when you knew they went to a taping, and then you read it on the trade papers, and on the online that was legit. Like, and the song Degeneration X.
But
Like,
he didn't say any of what you're saying right now.
I'm
That's the
happy for
problem.
my boy Nico.
Yeah.
I'm happy for my boy Nico. But there you are. Degeneration X, like that. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that didn't win.
I'm with you 100%. I just wish he would have said that, not you.
But yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I guess I made
that's all I'm saying.
But, yeah,
I wish he would have made that argument.
if you're trying to reward it, yes, because I feel like I know more about the faction you said than I don't even know how to say it, but like then I did, and you gave us a good education in those 40 or 50 seconds. But I was trying to reward both the decision process and the point making. But yeah, so it's hard in the speed round. So I'm very impressed. Nico, congratulations. Andrew, I had you on that one, so you didn't go over on that one at least. But.
I for the record, I chose DX because I am a Shawn Michaels fanboy.
Oh, there you go.
As am I.
Bring up the tank next time, dude. How did you not bring up the tank?
So, with that being said, that means we officially have a winner, and it is none other than the current Chokeslam wrestling debate. Somehow pulled a win out of his ass. Had to come from behind like the Chiefs, and just completely annihilated. That might be a little bit dated by the time this video gets up, but that's all right because I'm still weeping about my team because we suck, as I said all year. So let's get into some post-match interviews. Let's go to our second place finisher, as Brian Chandler would rightfully say, because we don't say losers around here. That's just mean to say. Andrew, I really thought you were going to pull that out there for a little while there. I think you really had Nico on the ropes. So even though you didn't come out on top here tonight, ultimately, how do you assess how you played?
I played better than I thought I did. Thought I would, I should say. I mean, I don't consider myself a good debater in the slightest, but the fact that I got to take the champ to the speed round, I think that's pretty amazing by my standards. And I have no shame in losing. I lost to the champ. I mean, he's the champ for a reason. It just sucks that I suck in the speed round.
Yeah, well, technically, he's a champ for a reason. That's only because I made him the champ. So, so take that what you will. There's no shame of saying that. So, with that, we now go to our winner, the champion of Chokeslam, Nico Regoli. You made us all sweat that out there, but ultimately, you did Chokeslam proud.
You're sweating. I'm sweating.
Actually, I feel great. So, how are you feeling after that grueling, exhausting match that you just had?
This seems to be par for the course for me. Like, even though I'm the champ, all of my matches go down to the wire, with the exception of my very first match against Eli. Like, ever since then, it's been go the full 5 rounds. And like, granted, it makes for an entertaining match, but it makes for an exhausted me. And my God, I'm gonna be real here. Had he gotten the better of me, there he is, I was very tempted to give him a title shot if I was still champion after Debate Kingdom in February. But since he did not defeat me, I don't have to do that. But I was prepared to do that because I want to be a fighting champ. And if you can beat me while I'm the champ, then that means you're worthy of challenging for this title.
He took you to 5 rounds. He's worthy, dude. You got to give him that shot.
Maybe I'll earn my way up.
He's gonna have to, because that's basically the way TMG works. Like,
and I wouldn't want it any other way.
But I am willing to do another exhibition after Debate Kingdom when I defend my title. Smasher. You know, I realize your Schmoedown contract doesn't let you compete in trivia matches in the fan leagues, but Chance Ellison still competes here in TMG and debates every now and then. What do you say you and me do an exhibition here in the Chokeslam? Put that knowledge of yours to good use.
Listen, buddy. You think Kaiser's going to let me out of the dungeon to start studying wrestling stats and facts? I'm a huge wrestling fan. I was in the day, but to do your prep, both of you guys, you both would have killed me today. So I appreciate it, and I'm going to remember that you called me out, because when you get into the Schmoedown, I'm going to make you pay for it. But yeah, I'm going to just respectfully decline. I got to keep my interests and my focus elsewhere in the Schmoedown. But Yeah, you guys both did well. I was impressed. I was impressed with your ballsy pick, to be honest. And yeah, you're the champion for a reason, dude. So you both did well. I'm gonna politely decline and say this is your wheelhouse. This might be Chance's wheelhouse. It ain't my wheelhouse. So
Fair enough. But if you want to extend the invite I just gave to you to Kaiser, because he
now Kaiser would be better. Kaiser, yes, Kaiser. I'll forward it along. I work with him. He might be interested because he knows a lot about. I mean, he doesn't know anything about the new stuff though. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so you might have to do an exhibition where you're talking only 80s.
And you know what? Send it to your boss. Send the message to Harloff. I like. Why not? I want to be a fighting champion. I want to be a ballsy champion. I want to do things that no other champion in the fan leagues have tried or even thought of doing before because they're too afraid to do it. If that means calling out the chairman of the Schmoedown, so be it. I will take that risk. But until then, please donate to Trivia for Thon 2.
There it is. Nice
Hashtag
segue.
Trivia, the number 4 Thon 2. Click the link in the video description below and donate to the 4 Diamonds Pediatric Cancer Research Fund as part of my and Penn State New Kensington's Thon fundraising efforts. Once again, the 4 Diamonds Fund is a great organization where we all the proceeds go to help find a cure for pediatric cancer and also to help cover the costs of families who have children enrolled in Penn State Hershey Children's Hospital. And Thon is a great thing that Penn State does every February. 46-hour dance marathon at the Bryce Jordan Center at University.
We're gonna see you do that or what, buddy?
I will be one of the moralers. I will be cheering on the people that Penn State New Kensington selected to dance for the full 46 hours. So I'll be taking 6-hour shifts of dancing, which is still very exhausting, but it's worth it for the good cause. I've done. I love being a Penn Stater. I love that my college alma mater does something like this on a yearly basis. And I wish I had done it sooner than I started, but better late than never. And I'm glad to put on a show for all of you for 8 days long to help spread awareness of that good cause.
Oh, thank you for all the plugs and screw you for doing all that crap throwing at the chairman of Schmoedown because I'm the host here and now he's going to bury me and he's one of only 4 people that actually knows who I am. So that's the last thing I want to do. Is
JTH for the Yodi Award 2021.
Fair enough. No comment there.
How about for a new webcam for JTH first?
Yeah. That's the next. That's the next charity event that we're going to be doing.
Yeah. And a new board for you, Nico. Is that just a piece of paper with a 2 on it? Come on. What are you thinking?
It was so I could change it to 3 for next year.
Oh wow!
Well, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about a webcam with me because it's not going to help me. Because fun fact, I actually don't exist in high definition. So, was it that funny? I actually didn't think it was that funny.
That was a good joke. That was a good joke.
I appreciated it.
I'll give that a solid C+. So I'll be nice to myself. So with that, we're going to close up shop here. So first off, I want to say very special thank you to Kevin the Smasher Smets on behalf of everybody here. It was a pleasure to have a well-established member of the Schmoedown be able to take part in this. I know you have your passion for wrestling, and when I personally found out you were going to be able to take part of this, I was really, really excited. So thank you so much for taking part in this. If there's anything else that you want to plug before we close up, lead away.
Just get your tickets to New York or to Brooklyn. Wait, this is going to air after that, isn't it?
No, it's going to air on the Monday before it.
Monday before. So airline tickets might be expensive for you, but you should still go ahead and book your tickets and go to Brooklyn. It's going to be a great event. That main event replacement for me and for Smar is going to be fantastic. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of great things to come in the Schmoedown. So thank you guys. And you can live stream it too. www.schmoedownlive. Not the Schmoedown. Now I'm a bad. Look at this.
There's a live stream link in the Patreon somewhere.
Yeah, just do the live stream link in the Patreon and also donate. I mean, but the biggest pitch for me is you want to donate to the cause. It's a great cause for the Trivia-thon, and thank you for doing that. You're a good person. You're good people there, Nico. You're good people. You're not a degenerate, as they would say. So thanks, everybody. For having me.
I'm the degenerate here.
You're the degenerate, yes.
Well, if anybody wants to fly to New York for that thing, you can always get tickets out of Reagan in D.C. You'll probably get tickets there for about $1.25. So if you ever want, cheap airline tickets, that's the place to go. So on behalf of everybody here at the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate and for Combat Wrestling Trivia, also big thank you to our timekeeper here tonight. I actually don't know a famous wrestling timekeeper out there. If you got one, go ahead and say one because I'm lost on that.
I can't think of one.
Yeah, on behalf of everybody at Combat Wrestling Trivia and on behalf of everybody here at Chokeslam, thank you so much for tuning in. And be sure to donate for this good cause. It is a great cause. And until next time, on behalf of everyone, this is JTH Thing. Thank you for watching, and we all bid you adieu.